There is something happening to you that you cannot quite explain to the people around you. It started quietly, maybe months ago, maybe longer, and at first you thought it was just a season, just a rough patch, just the kind of tired that sleep fixes. But the sleep came and went, and the feeling remained. You wake up in the morning, and there is a weight sitting on your chest before the day has even begun. Not a weight of sadness exactly, not depression in the way people describe it, but something heavier and stranger than that. A pressure, a knowing that something is supposed to be different. A restlessness that follows you from room to room, from conversation to conversation, from one distraction to the next, and never quite releases its grip on you. The people you used to feel close to have started to feel distant, and you cannot always point to a reason. There was no argument, no betrayal, no clear moment of fracture. They are still there, still sending the same messages, still laughing at the same things, and yet something between you has shifted. You sit in rooms full of people you have known for years and feel like a stranger among them. You smile at the right moments. You say the right words. But inside there is a quiet ache that whispers that you were not made for this, that this life, as comfortable or as familiar as it may be, is not the full picture of what you are supposed to be living. You have started dreaming differently. Not always in sleep, but in the quiet moments when your mind stops performing and starts simply being. In those moments, images come to you, possibilities come to you, a version of your life that is larger, deeper, more meaningful, more aligned with something you feel in your bones, but have never been able to name out loud. And then the day picks up again and the vision fades, and you tell yourself it was nothing. You tell yourself to be practical. You tell yourself to be grateful for what you have. But the ache does not leave. It waits for you in the next quiet moment and shows you the same thing again. Your tolerance for certain environments has changed dramatically. Things that used to feel normal now feel suffocating. Conversations that used to hold your interest now feel hollow. Entertainment that used to pass the time now leaves you feeling empty in a way that takes hours to shake. You have started pulling away from situations and people and places that once felt like home, and you do not always know why. You only know that something inside you is refusing to settle. Something inside you is restless in a way that feels almost sacred, almost urgent, as though time is running out for something you have not yet fully understood. There are moments when you feel electricity move through you for no apparent reason. You are standing in an ordinary place, doing an ordinary thing, and something shifts in the air around you, and you feel suddenly, powerfully awake in a way that the rest of your life does not produce. These moments do not last long. They come and go like signals from a frequency you have not yet learned to tune into consistently. But they remind you every time that there is more. There is more to who you are, and more to what this life is supposed to feel like than what you have been experiencing. People around you have started treating you differently too, even if they cannot explain why. Some have grown quieter in your presence. Some have grown more defensive, more dismissive, more eager to remind you of your limitations, your failures, your past. Others have simply drifted away without explanation, as though some invisible force rearranged the proximity of your relationships without asking your permission. And in the middle of all of this rearranging, you have found yourself more alone than you expected to be at this point in your life. Not lonely in the way that asks for company, but alone in the way that feels like preparation. Alone in the way that feels like something is being cleared out to make room. You have been carrying questions that you do not know how to ask out loud. Questions about purpose and direction, and why you feel so strongly that you were meant for something you cannot yet see clearly. Questions about why the path that made sense to everyone around you has never quite made sense to you. Questions about the pressure in your chest, and the restlessness in your spirit, and the dreams that keep returning no matter how many times you dismiss them. These questions are not symptoms of instability. They are not signs that something is wrong with you. They are evidence of something awakening in you that has been patient long enough. Because what you are experiencing is not a breakdown. It is not a midlife crisis or an identity crisis, or any of the other labels the world reaches for when it cannot understand what it is seeing. What you are experiencing is a breaking open, a cracking of the old container that was never large enough to hold everything you were made to carry. The pressure you feel is not the pressure of collapse. It is the pressure of expansion. It is what it feels like when a life is being restructured from the inside by a force greater than any human strategy or self-help program or motivational framework has ever been able to produce. You did not find this message by scrolling aimlessly. You did not land here by accident. Something directed your attention here, and if you are honest with yourself, you know that. You felt it the moment the words began, a recognition, a resonance. The feeling of hearing something that matches a frequency you have been carrying inside you without knowing what to call it. That feeling is important. Do not dismiss it. Do not intellectualize it away. Let it land. Let it settle. Because it is the beginning of an understanding that is about to reorder everything you thought you knew about yourself and the life hop you are walking into. The scripture says it plainly and without apology. Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5. Before I formed you in the womb I knew you. Before you were born I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. Before you were born, before your name was chosen, or your face was formed, or your first breath filled your lungs, there was an appointment already waiting for you. There was a call already placed on your life. There was a frequency already assigned to your spirit that no circumstance, no failure, no season of confusion, no period of isolation has ever been able to erase. What you are feeling right now is the pull of that original appointment making itself known again. It is the divine calendar, reaching into your present moment and reminding you that there are things written about you in heaven that have not yet been fulfilled on earth, and they are coming. They are being assembled. They are closer than they have ever been. The restlessness you feel is not an enemy. It is a compass. The disconnection you feel from the life you used to live is not punishment. It is promotion. The ache in your chest that tells you there is more, that refuses to let you settle, that wakes you at strange hours with a weight that words cannot quite carry. That ache is the voice of your assignment, pressing against the walls of your current reality, asking to be released. And the world you are being called into is greater than the one you are leaving behind, greater than anything the old version of your life had room to hold. If everything I have described today matches something you have been living in your own skin, if the pressure is real, and the restlessness is real, and the sense that something is shifting around you feels undeniable, then I want you to do something right now. Type the number 222 in the comments below, not as a superstition, not as a ritual, but as a declaration, as a statement from your spirit to the universe that says, I am here, I am paying attention, I am ready to receive what has been prepared for me. 222. Let it be your marker, your stake in the ground, your acknowledgement that this moment is not random and you are not running from it anymore. Because the truth is that everything you have been walking through, every season of confusion, every relationship that dissolved, every door that closed, Every dream that felt too large for the life you were living in, none of it was wasted. None of it was a detour. Every single piece of it was a preparation. Every single weight you have carried has been building the strength required for what comes next. And what comes next is not small. What comes next is not a minor adjustment or a slight improvement or a modest upgrade. What comes next is the fullness of what was written about you before you were ever placed in this world. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not too late, too damaged, too ordinary, or too far from where you thought you would be by now. You are exactly where a chosen life requires you to be before the next door opens. And the door is opening. Not eventually, not someday, now. Right now, in this moment, with these words landing in your spirit and that quiet recognition humming in your chest, the door is opening. And you were always meant to walk through it. The pressure you felt in that first moment of recognition, that quiet earthquake moving through your chest when the words began to land, do not let it fade. Do not let the noise of the ordinary day talk you out of what your spirit just received. Because what is happening in you right now is not the beginning of a feeling. It is the continuation of a process that has been underway for longer than you realize. A process that was set in motion before you made a single decision, before you chose a single direction, before you understood enough about yourself to even ask the right questions. There is a pattern that heaven uses when it is preparing someone for something significant, and the pattern does not look the way most people expect it to look. It does not arrive with fanfare and clarity and a detailed map of every step you are supposed to take. It arrives quietly. It arrives through disruption. It arrives through the slow dismantling of the life you built for yourself, so that the life that was always intended for you has room to emerge. And the people who are walking through this pattern right now, the ones who feel the weight and the restlessness and the inexplicable sense that everything is rearranging, they are not falling apart. They are being put together in a way that required the old structure to come down first. You have to understand something about the way chosen lives are constructed. They are not built on the foundation of comfort. They are not assembled in seasons of ease and predictability. The people throughout history who have carried the greatest assignments, the ones whose lives became the evidence that heaven is real and that purpose is not a concept but a lived and breathing force. Those people were almost always forged in seasons that looked, from the outside, like failure, like loss, like being forgotten, like being placed somewhere smaller than their potential and left there long enough to wonder whether the vision they carried was real at all. There was a young woman in ancient Persia who understood this in a way that very few people in history have understood it. Her name was Esther, and before she ever stood in a palace, before she ever opened her mouth to speak words that would alter the fate of an entire people, she was an orphan. Let that settle for a moment. The woman who would become the most strategically positioned human being in the known world at that particular moment in history began her story with loss. She began her story without parents, without the foundation that most people consider non-negotiable for a stable and meaningful life. She was raised by her cousin Mordecai in a foreign land, among a people who were not the majority, in a culture that was not designed to celebrate her identity or amplify her voice. And yet the hand of heaven was on her life in a way that no amount of loss or displacement or cultural invisibility could interrupt. Because chosen lives are not chosen based on circumstances. They are not chosen based on how well positioned a person is by the world's standards. They are chosen from the inside out. They are marked at the level of the spirit, at the level of the soul, at the level of something that circumstances simply did not have access to, no matter how aggressively they try to define you. Esther did not know she was being prepared. That is the part of her story that almost never gets enough attention. She was not walking through her early years with a clear sense of destiny and a confident understanding of where it was all heading. She was living day by day, adapting, surviving, finding beauty and faithfulness in the small space she had been given. She was not performing for an audience she could not yet see. She was not rehearsing for a moment she did not know was coming. She was simply being who she was, in the place where she had been placed, with the people who had been assigned to walk beside her. And heaven was watching every single moment of it. This is important for you to hear today, because you have been measuring your readiness by the wrong standard. You have been looking at your current circumstances and concluding that you are not yet where you need to be. You have been looking at the gap between where you are and where you feel you are supposed to be, and allowing that gap to become evidence against yourself. But Esther in the house of Mordecai, learning how to be faithful in a small and ordinary life, was not behind schedule. She was exactly on time. She was being given the precise experiences that would make her capable of doing what only she could do when the moment arrived that required her specifically. The season you are in right now, no matter how small it feels, no matter how far it seems from the life you sense is waiting for you, is not a gap in your story. It is a chapter in your story. And it is one of the most important chapters, because it is the one where your character is being deepened beyond what comfort ever could have produced. It is the chapter where your discernment is being sharpened, where your endurance is being tested and proven, where the things that are truly yours, things that cannot be taken or replicated or assigned to someone else, are being separated from everything that was never really yours to begin with. Esther moved through an extraordinary process of preparation before she was ever given access to the king. She went through months of refinement, months of being set apart, months of a process that was not of her own design and that she could not rush or skip or negotiate her way around. And in those months, something was happening beneath the surface that the visible world could not yet see. A dignity was forming. A presence was developing. An authority was growing quietly inside a young woman who had every reason to believe that her beginnings defined her ceiling, and who chose, in spite of all of that, to remain faithful to the process she had been placed in. Your preparation has been doing the same thing in you. Every hard season, every night you cried without knowing exactly why, every relationship that ended, every plan that failed, every room you were overlooked in, every door that closed before you could get through it, every version of yourself that you had to bury before a truer version could emerge. None of that was random. None of that was punishment. All of it was refinement. All of it was heaven shaping you into someone who can carry what is about to be placed in your hands without dropping it, without being destroyed by it, without losing yourself in it. Because the weight of a great assignment requires a person of corresponding depth to carry it. And depth is not produced in easy seasons. Depth is produced exactly the way your life has been producing it, through pressure, through uncertainty, through the long stretches of waiting where you had nothing to hold on to except a sense deep in your spirit that the story was not over. That sense was not wishful thinking. That sense was the voice of the one who wrote your story before you were born, reminding you across every difficult chapter that the ending had already been decided, and it was nothing like the middle you were currently living through. Esther chapter 4, verse 14. And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this? such a time as this. Not such a time as the easy one. Not such a time as the one that made sense. Not such a time as the one where everything lined up conveniently and the path was clear and the support was abundant. Such a time as this, the complicated one. The one full of pressure and weight and impossibility. The one that required someone who had been through exactly what you have been through. The one that needed a person forged in exactly the kind of fire you have been walking through. This time, your time, right now. You were not placed here by accident. You were not born in this generation by coincidence. You were not given the specific history you carry, the specific losses and recoveries and hard-won wisdoms, because the universe was being careless with your life. You were placed here, in this body, in this generation, in this particular moment in history, because heaven looked across all of time and determined that what this moment required was you, specifically you, not a better version of you, not a more prepared version of you, not a version of you that had it all together and had never made a mistake. You, exactly as you are, shaped by exactly what you have lived through, carrying exactly what your journey has placed inside you. Esther did not volunteer for her assignment. She was placed into position by a sequence of events that she did not orchestrate, in a timing she did not control, through a pathway she would never have designed for herself. And the same is true of you. The pathway that has brought you to this moment was not your design. It was heaven's design. And it was a better design than the one you would have chosen for yourself, because the one you would have chosen would have been comfortable enough to make you content, but not deep enough to make you capable of what you are actually being called to do. The shift that you felt in section 1, that internal earthquake, that recognition, it did not happen because this is just another message. It happened because heaven used this moment to remind you that you are in the right place at the right time, carrying exactly what this season requires, and that the one who placed you here has never once lost sight of you. Not in the hard years, not in the silent years, not in the years when you wondered whether the vision was real. He has been watching every single moment the way he watched Esther, with the full knowledge of what was coming and the patient certainty that you would be ready when it arrived. What Esther carried inside her during those years of preparation was not just resilience. It was not just the ability to endure hard things and keep moving. What she carried was something that most people who have never been through a genuine breaking would not recognize if they saw it up close. It was a quality of presence that could not be manufactured, could not be performed, could not be borrowed from someone else's experience or imitated from someone else's story. It was the quiet, unshakable knowing of a person who has been refined by something real. And that kind of knowing, that depth of presence, is exactly what heaven requires in a person before it releases them into the fullness of their assignment. You have been developing that same quality. You may not have recognized it as such, because from the inside it does not feel like development. From the inside it feels like survival. It feels like getting through another day, managing another wave of uncertainty, pushing through another season of not knowing. But what the inside experience calls survival, heaven calls transformation. What feels to you like barely holding on is, from the perspective of the eternal, a masterclass in becoming. Someone whose foundation cannot be shaken by the storms that are common to a large and significant life. There is a difference between people who have read about hard things and people who have lived through them. And heaven is not looking for people who have read about it. Heaven is looking for people who carry the evidence of the process in their bodies, in their spirits, in the way they move through a room and speak to another human being and hold space for pain without flinching. That kind of person cannot be produced quickly. That kind of person cannot be manufactured by motivation or willpower or the right set of strategies. That kind of person is produced by exactly the kind of journey you have been on. And the world that is waiting for you needs exactly the kind of person you are becoming. Esther had a mentor in Mordecai, and Mordecai was not always easy to hear. There came a moment in her story where the comfortable path and the right path diverged completely, and Mordecai stood at that intersection and refused to let her choose comfort. When the threat against her people became known, when the weight of what was being asked of her became undeniable, Esther's first instinct was to explain why it was not possible. Her first instinct was to outline the obstacles, to describe the protocol, to remind Mordecai of the rules that stood between her and the throne room. And Mordecai listened to all of it. And then he said something that has echoed across thousands of years and into this very moment. He reminded her that silence was not safety. He reminded her that the protection she thought she had was not as solid as she believed. And he reminded her that she had not arrived where she was by accident. You have people in your life right now who are playing the role of Mordecai. They may not be using religious language. They may not be framing it in terms of destiny and calling and divine appointment. But there are voices in your life, some of them coming through messages like this one. Some of them coming through the still small voice inside your own spirit that are standing at the intersection of your comfortable path and your right path and refusing to let you choose comfort without least fully understanding what you are trading away. Because there is something you are being called to do that only you can do. There is a room that requires your specific presence. There is a conversation that needs your specific voice. There is a life, and it may be one life, it may be thousands of lives, that is waiting for the thing that only your particular journey has equipped you to offer. And if you choose silence, if you choose the safety of staying small, if you choose the comfort of the life that requires nothing extraordinary from you, that assignment does not disappear. It simply goes unfulfilled, and the weight of an unfulfilled assignment is heavier than the weight of stepping forward into the terrifying and glorious thing that heaven has been preparing you for. This is not about pressure in the punishing sense. This is not about guilt or obligation or the fear of divine disappointment. This is about the deep and cellular knowing that you have been carrying, the one that woke you at 3 in the morning, the one that made ordinary conversations feel hollow, the one that produced the restlessness no distraction could fully silence. That knowing is not anxiety. That knowing is invitation. It is the sound of heaven knocking on the door of your current limitations and saying, there is more, and you were always meant to have access to it. The version of yourself that is living fully inside the assignment that was written for you before you were born is not a fantasy. It is not an idealized projection that has no basis in reality. It is the most real version of you that exists. It is the version that your spirit already knows intimately, even if your mind has not yet caught up. And the distance between where you are standing right now and where that version of you lives is not as vast as it feels. It is not separated from you by years of more struggle and more failure and more proving yourself. It is separated from you by a decision, by a willingness to stop explaining why it is not possible and start walking in the direction of the thing that heaven has already declared is yours. Esther made that walk. She prepared herself. She fasted. She gathered her courage not from the absence of fear, but from something deeper than fear. From the sense that she had been placed at this intersection by a force that was greater than the fear, and that the same force that had placed her there would carry her through whatever waited on the other side. And then she walked into the throne room, uninvited, against protocol, against the reasonable expectation of self-preservation. She walked in carrying nothing but the assignment on her life and the presence that years of preparation had built inside her. And the king extended the scepter, and everything changed. Your throne room moment is coming. It may not look like a literal palace or a literal king, but there is a moment ahead of you that will require the same quality of courage that Esther carried into that room. A moment where every logical voice will tell you to wait, to prepare more, to be more certain, to gather more evidence that you are ready. And in that moment, the thing that will carry you through will not be logic. It will be the deep and settled, knowing that you were placed at that intersection on purpose, that the assignment on your life is real, that the preparation you have been through was not accidental, and that the one who authored your story has already written what happens when you say yes. You are being shaped right now in this season for that moment. Every day that feels like waiting is a day of refinement. Every experience that feels like loss is a day of expansion. Every relationship that ended, every plan that failed, every door that closed was not heaven withdrawing from you. It was heaven narrowing the path so that you would arrive at the right place with the right preparation at exactly the right time, just as Esther arrived. Not early, not late, exactly when the moment required her, with exactly what the moment required of her, because every preceding chapter had been preparing her for precisely this. There is a frequency that chosen lives carry. It is not mystical in the way that word sometimes sounds. It is real, and it is measurable, and it is the signature of a life that has been set apart, refined by pressure, deepened by loss, and expanded by a faithfulness that did not require perfect circumstances to remain intact. You carry that frequency. It has been growing in you through every hard chapter, and the world around you is beginning to respond to it, even when neither you nor the world can fully articulate what is happening. People sense something in you. Situations shift when you enter them. Atmospheres change around your presence in ways that have nothing to do with your strategy or your personality, and everything to do with what has been deposited inside you through the journey you have lived. Romans chapter 8, verse 28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. All things. Not the comfortable things, not the things that made sense, not the things that felt like blessings when they arrived. All things. The betrayals and the losses and the closed doors and the seasons of silence and the nights, when the weight in your chest felt like it would never lift. All of it was working. All of it was being woven into something that your current vantage point does not yet give you a full view of. But heaven has the full view, and from that vantage point, everything that has happened in your life is coherent. Everything connects. Everything served the purpose, and the purpose is something so much larger and more beautiful than anything the hard chapters alone would have allowed you to imagine. You are not a collection of your wounds. You are not defined by your failures or your losses or your seasons of being overlooked and underestimated. You are the sum of everything that heaven has been working through your life to produce. And what has been produced in you is extraordinary. It is rare. It is the kind of depth and presence and capacity that the world genuinely needs, and that only a life like yours could have generated. The refining is not finished, but you are further along than you know, and the life that is waiting on the other side of your next yes is more aligned with everything your spirit has always known it was made for than anything you have yet experienced. Esther did not know what the king's response would be when she walked through that door. She only knew that she had been placed there for a reason, and that the reason was greater than her fear. That is the same knowing that is available to you right now. Not certainty about every outcome, not a guarantee that every step will be comfortable, but the deep and unshakable knowing that you have been placed here on purpose, that the assignment on your life is real, and that the one who placed you here is not going to abandon you in the middle of the stories he is still writing through you. The thread that has been running through everything you have heard so far does not break here. It deepens, because what you are beginning to understand about yourself, about the preparation, about the refining process, about the way heaven has been shaping you through every hard chapter, all of that is about to connect to something that will make the picture even clearer. Something that will give you not just the spiritual understanding of what is happening in you, but the practical framework for how to walk in it every single day. Here is something that researchers have been circling for decades and are only now beginning to fully articulate. The people throughout history who have operated at the highest levels of creativity, intuition, and breakthrough thinking, the ones who seem to access solutions that others could not reach, the ones whose minds appeared to work on a different level than the people around them. Those individuals were not simply more intelligent in the conventional sense. They were operating at a different frequency, literally. At the level of measurable brain activity, something distinct was happening inside them that set their cognitive experience apart from the ordinary. Scientists call it gamma. The gamma brainwave state is one of the highest frequency brain states the human mind can enter. It is associated with moments of profound insight, with a kind of thinking that produces breakthrough solutions, with the experience of information coming together in ways that feel almost effortless, almost as though the answer was already there waiting to be received rather than constructed. Athletes describe it as being in the zone. Artists describe it as the moment the work takes over. Spiritual leaders across centuries have described it in the language of their tradition as illumination, as divine download, as the moment when something greater than their own understanding moved through them and produced something they could not have produced alone. And here is where the spiritual and the scientific begin to speak the same language. Because what you have been experiencing in your prepared and refined and deepened spirit, that frequency you carry, the one that makes atmospheres shift, and people lean in and situations respond, that is not separate from what neuroscience is describing when it talks about gamma. It is the same reality being named by two different disciplines. Heaven has always known what science is only now catching up to. The chosen life is not just a theological concept. It is a neurological reality, and it can be accessed, cultivated, and strengthened in a way that changes not just how you feel spiritually, but how your mind actually functions in the practical, daily business of living your assignment. A neuroscientist named Dr. James Rivers, trained through MIT and connected to research conducted in partnership with NASA, spent more than 30 years studying this precise phenomenon. He was not approaching it from a spiritual framework. He was approaching it from the framework of pure science, from the desire to understand why certain minds consistently outperform others, why certain people seem to access states of clarity and creativity and insight that the majority of people only encounter by accident, briefly, and without knowing how to return to them. What he discovered across those 30 years of research fundamentally changed his understanding of what the human brain is capable of and, more importantly, what it is being prevented from doing by the conditions of modern life. What Dr. Rivers found was that the brain has a natural capacity to enter and sustain these high-performance states, specifically the theta and gamma brainwave frequencies. Theta waves, operating between 4 and 8 cycles per second, are the frequency associated with deep creativity, accelerated learning, intuition, and the kind of relaxed awareness that allows insight to rise to the surface without effort. Children live in theta almost constantly, which is why they learn so rapidly, and why their imaginations operate without the limitations that adult minds impose on themselves. As people grow older, the pressures of life, the accumulation of stress, the demands of performance and productivity, and social expectation gradually push the brain out of this natural and extraordinarily generative state. Gamma, the higher frequency, is where the most profound cognitive experiences occur. It is the frequency of the eureka moment, of the sudden clarity that reorganizes everything, of the kind of thinking that produces not just solutions but breakthroughs, not just answers but entirely new frameworks for understanding the questions. Dr. Rivers and his research team found that these states are not reserved for a genetic elite. They are not the exclusive property of people born with unusual intelligence or unusual circumstance. They are available to every human brain, but the brain needs help returning to them because the conditions of modern life have created a kind of neurological interference that keeps most people locked out of their own highest potential. The solution that emerged from this research is what became known as the Genius Wave. It is a 7-minute audio program built on the principle of brainwave entrainment, which is the scientifically documented capacity of the brain to synchronize its own electrical activity with external rhythmic stimuli. Using precisely calibrated binaural beats and isochronic tones, the audio gently guides the brain back into the theta and gamma states that are your natural neurological birthright. Not through effort, not through years of meditation practice, not through any special skill or training, simply by listening with headphones for 7 minutes a day. 7 minutes. That is the duration that Dr. Rivers and his team identified as the optimal window for achieving meaningful brainwave synchronization without causing the kind of neural fatigue that longer sessions can produce. 7 minutes is long enough to shift the brain into the target frequency, to allow the hippocampus, which governs memory and learning, to activate fully, to allow the regions associated with creative processing and higher cognition to come online in a sustained and productive way. And 7 minutes is short enough to be genuinely sustainable as a daily practice, which matters enormously because it is the consistency of the practice, not the length of any single session, that produces the lasting neurological changes that transform the quality of your thinking over time. This is the bridge between the spiritual and the practical that many chosen people have been missing. You have the depth. You have the preparation. You have the refining and the forming, and the years of being shaped by a process you did not fully understand while you were inside it. And now you are being given access to a tool that allows your brain, the physical instrument through which your assignment must be expressed in the world, to operate at the level that matches everything heaven has been building in your spirit. A woman named Sarah, a school counselor and single mother of 2, began using the Genius Wave after years of feeling like her mind was operating through a fog. She described it as knowing she had more to offer than what was coming through, as though there was a gap between the clarity she could sense was possible and what she was actually able to access on a daily basis. Within 3 weeks of consistent daily use, she reported a shift in the quality of her thinking that she described as the fog lifting. Within 2 months, she had developed and pitched a new program for her school district that was accepted and implemented. Something she had been trying to find the mental clarity and confidence to do for over a year. She did not become a different person. She became a more fully functioning version of the person she had always been, with access to the cognitive resources that had been there all along, waiting for the interference to be removed. A man named Marcus, a 52-year-old logistics manager who had not felt creatively alive in nearly a decade, began the daily 7-minute practice with no particular expectation beyond curiosity. He told his story in a review that described waking up on the 14th day of the practice with an idea so clear and so complete that he wrote it down for 2 hours without stopping. That idea became the foundation of a side business he had been vaguely dreaming about for years, but had never been able to bring into focus, he said. And these were his exact words. It was like someone turned the lights back on in a room I had forgotten was there. Now, before I tell you how to access this, I want to speak directly to the thought that some of you are already having. Because I know some of you are thinking that $39 is not nothing, and you are right. It is not nothing. In certain seasons of life, $39 represents a real decision. And I am not going to minimize that or dismiss it or bury it under enthusiasm and pressure. What I will say is this: you have already spent more than $39 in time, in energy, in the quiet cost of living, below the level of clarity and creativity that is your natural neurological right, on the interference that the genius wave is specifically designed to remove. You have already paid more than $39 for the fog. This is $39 for the light. The genius wave is normally priced at $49. Through the link in the pinned comment and in the description below this video, you can access it today for just $39. That link also carries a 90-day money-back guarantee, not 30 days, 90 days. 3 full months to experience the practice, to allow your brain the time it needs to respond, to give the process a genuine and unhurried chance. And if at the end of that time you do not feel the shift, you receive every dollar back. No argument, no process, no questions that make you feel like you have to justify your experience to receive what was promised. One important note before you go looking: there are imitation products circulating online that use similar language and similar framing, but are not the genuine research-backed program developed by Dr. Rivers and his team. The only link that connects you to the authentic genius wave is the one in the pinned comment and the description of this video. That is the only source I can stand behind. That is the only source where the 90-day guarantee applies. Please do not let the savings of a few dollars on a counterfeit program cost you the genuine experience that the real product delivers. This offer is not permanent. The $39 price point is available for a limited time and to a limited number of people. When that window closes, it closes, and the clarity and the creativity and the cognitive access that are on the other side of this practice will still be there, still possible, but the pathway to them at this price will not be. If you have felt anything in this message today, if any part of what has been said has resonated at the level of your spirit and your knowing, let that resonance move you to action before the window closes. What you just heard about the science of your mind and the tool that has been made available to you is not a detour from the spiritual journey this message has been walking you through. It is an extension of it, because heaven has never been interested in a spirituality lay that floats above the practical realities of your daily life without touching them. The calling on your life was never meant to live exclusively in the realm of feeling and intuition and sacred longing. It was meant to land. It was meant to take root in the actual soil of your days, in the decisions you make, and the work you produce, and the presence you bring to every room you walk into. And anything that helps your mind operate closer to its created capacity is not separate from your assignment. It is in service of it. Esther understood this in a way that her story makes beautifully clear. When Mordecai came to her with the weight of what was being asked, she did not immediately step into action. She did not perform courage before she had gathered it. She asked for 3 days. 3 days of fasting, of stillness, of allowing herself to be brought into alignment between what her spirit knew and what her body and mind needed in order to carry it. She was not being passive. She was being strategic in the deepest sense of that word. She was ensuring that when she walked into the throne room, every part of her, spirit, soul, and body, was moving together in the same direction, at the same frequency, with the same intention. That kind of wholeness, that kind of integration between the spiritual reality you carry and the physical and mental capacity through which you express it is not a luxury for the chosen life. It is a requirement. Because the assignment on your life is not small, and small assignments can be carried by a fragmented person, by someone running on partial capacity, by someone whose mind is operating through interference and whose creativity is locked behind the accumulated weight of stress and exhaustion and the neurological noise of a life that has asked too much and offered too little restoration. But the assignment on your life is not small. It requires everything you are. And everything you are includes the mind that heaven placed inside your skull. That extraordinary and largely untapped instrument of perception and creativity and problem solving and vision that has been waiting, in some cases for years, for the interference to be removed so that it can finally operate the way it was created to operate. This is why the integration matters. This is why the spiritual depth you have been developing through your preparation and the cognitive clarity that a practice like the genius wave makes available are not separate streams. They are tributaries of the same river. They are both moving in the direction of destination, which is the fullest possible expression of the life that was written for you before you were born. And when both streams are flowing, when your spirit is carrying the depth of what heaven has been building in you through every hard season, and your mind is operating at the clarity and creativity of its highest frequency, what becomes possible in your life is genuinely extraordinary. There is something that happens to a person when their inner preparation and their outer capacity begin to match each other. When the depth of what they carry is finally being supported by the quality of the instrument through which they are carrying it, something unlocks. Something that had been pressing against a closed door finds the door open. And the movement that follows is not forced or effortful in the way that most forward movement in life feels. It has a quality of flow to it, quality of rightness, a sense of being in the current rather than fighting against it. Athletes know this feeling. Artists know this feeling. And chosen ones, when they are fully aligned in spirit and mind and operating from the place of their deepest preparation, know this feeling too. Esther knew it when she walked through that door. There is no other explanation for what happened in that throne room. By every external measure, she should not have survived the approach. The protocol was clear. The consequences for violating it were understood by everyone in the palace. And yet she walked in, and the king extended the scepter, and the behavior that followed was not just personal. It was historic. It altered the trajectory of an entire people. Because when a chosen person steps into their moment from a place of full alignment, from a place where what they carry in their spirit and what they are able to access in their mind and what they are willing to do with their body are all moving together in the same direction. The outcomes are not ordinary. They are not proportional to what a merely human calculation would predict. They are the kind of outcomes that make people pause and say, something else was at work here, something greater than strategy, something greater than talent, something that can only be explained by the intersection of divine appointment and a person who showed up fully prepared to meet it. You are being prepared for your intersection. You are being brought into alignment for your moment of extension, for the moment when the door opens and the favor flows, and the thing that has been pressing against the walls of your current reality finally has the room it needs to fully emerge. And the preparation is not just spiritual. It is not just the deepening of your character and the refining of your resilience and the clarifying of your sense of purpose. It is also the alignment of your mind with its highest available frequency, because your moment will require everything, and heaven is interested in making sure that everything is ready. Think about the people in your life who have operated in genuine breakthrough, not the ones who simply worked harder than everyone else, though most of them did work hard, but the ones who seemed to think differently. The ones whose solutions came from a place that other people could not quite access. The ones who walked into rooms and immediately saw what others were missing, who connected dots that others did not even know were in proximity to each other, who brought a quality of vision and creativity and insight to their work that was simply on a different level from what was happening around them. Those people were not operating from a different set of facts. They were operating from a different frequency. And that frequency is available to you. The quietness you have been feeling in your spirit over the last several minutes, as the weight of the product information has settled, and the broader invitation of this message has come back into focus, that quietness is significant. It is the sound of integration happening. It is the sound of your spirit and your mind beginning to orient themselves together toward the same horizon. Do not rush past it. Let it do its work. Because what is being assembled in you, in this moment, the convergence of everything you have heard about who you are and what you are carrying and what is available to you, is the beginning of a new orientation. A new starting point, a new daily reality that is closer to the life you have always known you were meant to live than anything you have experienced before. The scripture speaks to this convergence with a clarity that has never left me since the first time I encountered it. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Renew, not create from scratch. Renew, because the strength was always there. The capacity was always there. The frequency was always there, written into your design before you drew your first breath. What the process of renewal does is not manufacture something new from nothing. It restores what was always yours to its full and functioning expression. It removes the interference. It clears the noise. It brings you back into alignment with the original signal that heaven placed inside you when it decided that you were going to be exactly who you are, carrying exactly what you carry, placed exactly where you have been placed, for exactly this moment in the story that is still being written. And the strength that returns in that renewal is not the grinding, white-knuckled, grit your teeth and push through kind of strength that most people are familiar with. It is not the strength of someone straining against resistance. It is the strength of someone moving with the current, of someone whose inner life and outer capacity are finally synchronized, of someone who has been through enough to be unafraid of the hard things and has been prepared enough to meet them with something that hard things cannot ultimately withstand. It is the strength of Esther walking through that door, quiet, grounded, fully present, fully aligned, fully ready, and fully trusting that the one who placed the assignment on her life had also prepared the way for it to be fulfilled. That is the strength that is being renewed in you right now, not tomorrow, not after more preparation, not when the circumstances improve or the obstacles clear or the people around you finally understand what you are carrying now. In this season, in this moment, with everything you have already been through as the raw material and everything that is still ahead as the invitation, the renewal is happening, the alignment is forming, and the life that emerges from this place of convergence is going to be more than you have been able to ask or imagine from any of the places you have stood before. Esther did not know what the throne room would look like until she was standing in it. You do not need to see every detail of what is ahead before you take the next step. You only need to know that you were placed here by someone who does see every detail, who has already accounted for every obstacle and every uncertainty and every moment of doubt that lies between where you are standing now and where you are going, and who has determined with complete and unshakable certainty that you are ready for what is coming. The extension of the scepter is already decided. The favor is already prepared. The room is already waiting. You just have to keep walking toward it. The river that has been running through this message, the one that began with the pressure in your chest and the restlessness in your spirit and the quiet recognition that something in your life is shifting. That river does not slow here, it widens. Because what is happening in you as you listen is not meant to stay contained within the borders of a single message or a single moment of clarity. What is being awakened in you is meant to spill out into the actual territory of your daily life, into the relationships you carry, the work you bring your hands to, the rooms you walk into, the people who will never be the same because you were present with them at exactly the right moment. Esther's story did not end when she walked out of the throne room. The moment of breakthrough was not the conclusion of her story. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one that required her to keep showing up, to keep using her voice, to keep standing in the place she had been given access to, and using that access for something greater than her own comfort or her own advancement. The favor she received in that moment was not for her alone. It was for everyone whose life would be changed, because she had been willing to step forward. And the impact of her willingness rippled outward in ways that she could not have fully anticipated when she was still standing outside the door, working up the courage to open it. Your breakthrough moment is going to work the same way. What heaven is doing in you is not designed to stop with you. You are not the final destination of this preparation. You are the channel through which something moves into the world that the world genuinely needs. And that means the life you are stepping into is not a private upgrade. It is a public assignment. It is a life that will touch other lives, that will speak into other stories, that will carry the frequency of something real and deep and refined into spaces that have been waiting, sometimes without knowing they were waiting, for exactly what you are carrying. This is why community matters in the chosen life. Not as a performance, not as a platform, not as a place to display your progress or your revelation or your ever-increasing clarity, but as a place of genuine connection between people who are walking the same kind of road, who understand the weight and the restlessness and the refining from the inside, who can speak into each other's journey from a place of real knowing rather than theoretical understanding. The chosen life was never designed to be lived in isolation. Even Esther had Mordecai. Even the most singular and distinct assignments are surrounded by a community of people who are called to the same general territory, even if each person's specific path through it is entirely their own. If this message has resonated with you today, if any part of what you have heard has landed in that deeper place where truth settles without argument, then I want to invite you to do something that costs you nothing except a moment of your attention. Like this video. Not as a transaction, not because an algorithm requires it, but as a declaration that what you heard today was something worth having access to, again on a day when the weight comes back and you need to be reminded of what you know. A like is a small act, but it is not a meaningless one. It is a way of saying, this is real, and I want to be able to find my way back to it. Share this message with someone who is walking through a season that looks like the one described at the beginning of this video. You know who I am talking about. There is a face that came to your mind as the words were spoken. Someone who is feeling the pressure and the disconnection and the restlessness, and who has not yet found the language to name what is happening to them. You do not need to send it with an explanation or a sermon or a lengthy introduction. Simply send it. Simply make it available. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for another person is place the right words in their path at the right moment and trust that those words will do what they were made to do. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already. Not because subscriptions are a measure of anything that ultimately matters, but because what is being built here is an ongoing conversation, a continuous invitation into the kind of depth and clarity and spiritual alignment that a single message can begin, but only a sustained community can fully sustain. There are more messages coming, more invitations into this territory, more opportunities to go deeper into the understanding of who you are and what you carry and what heaven has been preparing you for through every chapter of your journey. Subscribing ensures that those invitations reach you when they arrive, that you do not miss the message that arrives on the exact day you need it most. And for those of you who feel called to go further, who feel a stirring to contribute to the ongoing work of building this space, of making these messages available to more people, of ensuring that the next person who is sitting in their car at 3 in the morning, or lying on their kitchen floor, or standing at the intersection of their comfortable path and their right path, has access to words that can meet them there. There is a link in the description and in the pinned comment below where you can give whatever you feel moved to give, whatever feels right for your current season. There is no minimum and there is no pressure. Only an open door for those who feel the resonance between what they have received here and what they want to see made available to others. Because that is what chosen lives do. They do not hoard what they have been given. They do not receive the gift of clarity and depth and perspective and then close the hand that received it. They pass it forward. They make room at the table for the next person who is walking the road they just walked. They use whatever platform, whatever resource, whatever sphere of influence they have been given access to as a conduit for something greater than their own story. And in doing so, they participate in the very dynamic that Esther participated in when she walked through that door. They become a link in a chain that stretches further than they can see, connecting people to a truth that changes, lives in ways that a single change-dyed life always ripples outward to produce. The message you heard today is not yours to keep. It is yours to carry forward. It is yours to share with the person who sent you a message last week that you did not know how to respond to. It is yours to pass to the colleague who has been quiet lately in a way that tells you something is happening beneath the surface. It is yours to offer to the family member who has been describing symptoms, disconnection, restlessness, pressure, a sense that something is supposed to be different, without knowing those are the opening lines of a story that is much larger and much more intentional than they have yet been able to believe. The weight you carry is not a burden, it is a gift, not always in the way it feels in the moments when it is heaviest, but in the way that everything refined by genuine process becomes a gift when it is offered from a place of wholeness into a world that is hungry for something real. You have something real. You have been given something real in this season, through this process, through every chapter that brought you to this message on this day, and the world around you, beginning with the people closest to you and extending outward into spaces you cannot yet see, is waiting for you to offer it. So like the video, share the message, subscribe to the channel, and if you feel the pull to give, follow it. Follow it not out of obligation, but out of the overflow of a spirit that has received something genuine and wants to see it reach further. Because that is what the chosen life looks like in practice. Not a private elevation, not a personal upgrade that stops at the borders of your own experience, but a life that has been lifted so that it can lift others. A life that has been deepened so that it can offer something deep to a world that is drowning in the shallow. A life that has been prepared specifically and intentionally and with great care to be poured out in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. Just as Esther was, just as you are. Right now, in this season, in this moment, with everything you have already lived through as your preparation and everything that is still ahead as your invitation, the channel is open, the frequency is available, the assignment is real, and the next step is simply to keep moving forward in the direction of everything you know you were made for, carrying with you everyone you can reach, and trusting that the one who placed the calling on your life has also prepared the way for it to be fulfilled in a way that is greater than anything you have yet had the capacity to imagine. There is a truth about the chosen life that most people are not told when they first begin to understand that they are carrying something significant. It is not a comfortable truth. It is not the kind of truth that fits neatly into the language of blessing and favor and open doors that surrounds so much of the conversation about divine assignment. But it is one of the most important truths you will ever receive about the nature of the life you are walking into, and receiving it clearly now will save you from a confusion that derails more chosen people than almost anything else. The truth is this: the moment you begin to move in the direction of your assignment, the moment you begin to align with the frequency of what heaven has placed in you, and step forward into the life that has been written for you, something else wakes up. Not something neutral, not something indifferent to your progress, something that is specifically and intelligently opposed to it, something that does not target people randomly or accidentally, but that moves with a precision that tells you, if you are paying attention, that what you carry is worth opposing. Because darkness does not waste its energy on things that do not matter. It does not organize opposition around lives that pose no threat to it. The intensity of the resistance you have faced is not evidence that you are losing. It is evidence that what you carry is significant enough to be worth fighting against. Esther discovered this the moment she began to move. The opposition in her story did not arrive after her victory. It was already in place before she took her first step. Haman, the architect of the threat against her people, had been building his case and consolidating his power long before Esther had any idea that her particular position and preparation were going to be required. The opposition was already organized. The plan was already in motion. The decree was already written. And into that fully mobilized an apparently unstoppable force, one woman walked. One woman who had been prepared in ways she did not fully understand, positioned in ways she had not orchestrated, and called in a moment she had not anticipated, to stand against something that, by every visible measure, she had no business standing against. This is the pattern of the chosen life. The opposition is never proportional to your resources as the world counts resources. It is never matched to your visible strength or your measurable credentials or your publicly recognized authority. It is always larger than what you can handle in your own capacity. And that is not an accident. It is a design feature. Because the assignments that heaven writes for chosen lives are not designed to be accomplished through human sufficiency. They are designed to require divine partnership. They are designed to be impossible enough that when they are accomplished, no one who was watching can attribute the outcome to the person alone. The glory of the outcome must point somewhere beyond the human instrument through which it was achieved. The opposition you have faced in your life, the resistance that has come against your relationships, your health, your finances, your mental clarity, your sense of identity and direction and purpose, has not been random. It has been targeted. And if you look back honestly across the timeline of your life, you will see a pattern in when the heaviest resistance arrived. It arrived when you were closest to a breakthrough. It arrived when you were on the verge of a decision that would have moved you significantly forward. It arrived when you were beginning to find your voice, beginning to understand your assignment, beginning to step into the frequency of what you were made to carry. The resistance was to stop you from having a comfortable life. It was trying to stop you from having a consequential one. Because a comfortable life that stays within the safe borders of ordinary human achievement is no threat to darkness. It produces no ripple. It changes no trajectory. It touches no life at a depth that alters the direction of that life permanently. But a chosen life, fully aligned, fully activated, operating from the depth of genuine preparation and the clarity of its highest cognitive and spiritual frequency, that life is dangerous to everything that wants the world to stay as it is. That life is a disruptive force. It breaks patterns, it reorders atmospheres, it speaks into situations that were not supposed to change and changes them. It stands in front of organized opposition and does not move. And it wins. Not always quickly, not always visibly, not always in the way that the watching world would recognize as winning in the moment it is happening, but it wins. Esther won. Not because she was stronger than Haman in any conventional sense. Not because she outmaneuvered him politically or socially or through superior access to power. She won because she was standing in her assignment, because she had been prepared for exactly the moment that was required, because she showed up in full alignment, spirit and soul and body, and stood in the place that heaven had designated for her, and let what was greater than her own strength move through her and accomplish what her own strength never could have accomplished alone. The outcome was not proportional to her visible resources. It was proportional to the assignment she was carrying and the faithfulness with which she had prepared to carry it. You are going to face resistance on the road ahead. I want to be honest with you about that, because I believe you deserve honesty, more than you deserve a version of this message that leaves that part out. The road into your assignment is not a road that darkness is going to wave you down cheerfully. There will be moments of opposition that feel disproportionate to what you thought you were stepping into. There will be seasons where the resistance is so organized and so persistent that you will wonder whether you misread the call. There will be relationships that turn against you precisely when you need them. Most. They're wazy circumstances that arrange themselves in ways that seem designed to convince you that you were wrong about what you heard, and wrong about who you are, and wrong about the life that was waiting for you. In those moments, remember this: the intensity of the opposition is not evidence against your calling. It is evidence for it. Darkness does not spend this kind of energy on lives that are not going somewhere significant. The organized and persistent nature of what you are facing is, paradoxically, one of the clearest confirmations available that you are on the right road and moving in the right direction. Because if you were not a threat, you would not be a target. And the fact that you have been targeted persistently and specifically tells you something crucial about the weight of what you carry, the significance of the destination you are moving toward. The armor that carries you through this is not built from certainty about every outcome. It is not built from the absence of fear or the presence of perfect confidence, or the guarantee that every step will be met with visible confirmation. It is built from the deep and settled, knowing that you were placed here on purpose, that the call is real, that the preparation was real, that every chapter of your story, including the ones that felt like loss and failure and being forgotten, was real. Preparation for a real assignment that a real and living heaven placed on your life before you drew your first breath. That knowing is the armor. That knowing is what carries you through the opposition without being destroyed by it. Isaiah chapter 54, verse 17. No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and this is their vindication from me, declares the Lord. No weapon, not the weapons of circumstance, not the weapons of other people's opinions or agendas or organized resistance, not the weapons of your own history, your own failures, your own seasons of being less than you knew you were capable of being. Not the weapons of the enemy's most carefully constructed case against your worthiness, or your readiness, or your right to stand in the place you have been called to occupy. No weapon forged against you will prevail. This is not wishful thinking. This is not a comforting platitude offered to make the hard road feel easier than it is. This is a declaration from the one who wrote your story, who sees every weapon that has been forged and everyone that is still being formed, and who is telling you with complete authority and zero qualification that none of them will have the final word on your life. Your vindication is already written. The outcome of every battle you are currently in, and every battle that is still ahead of you, has already been decided by the one who holds the authority that supersedes every other authority in the universe. What is required of you is not to win every skirmish. What is required of you is to keep moving, to keep standing, to keep showing up in alignment with what you carry, and in faithfulness to the assignment that was placed on your life, trusting that the one who gave you the assignment has also guaranteed the outcome of living it out with everything you have. Esther did not know the details of how Haman's plan would unravel. She only knew that she had been placed in position for a reason, and that the reason was greater than the threat. And she held that knowing against every wave of opposition that came, and the weapons formed against her people did not prevail. And the accusation that had been organized against them was refuted. And the vindication that followed was not just personal. It was historic. It was written down. It was remembered. It became part of a story that is still being told thousands of years later, still speaking into the lives of people who need to know that one person, fully aligned with their assignment and fully trusting in the one who gave it to them, can stand against organized darkness and not just survive, but change the entire landscape of the battle. That is the life you are walking into. Not a life of effortless ease. Not a life where the opposition disappears and the road smooths out and every step is met with visible and immediate confirmation, but a life where the weapons formed against you do not prevail. Where the resistance you face becomes the evidence of the significance of what you carry. Where the hardest chapters are the ones that produce the greatest depth, and where the outcome, when it comes, points not to your own strength or strategy or sufficiency, but to the one who placed the calling on your life and guaranteed its fulfillment before you were ever formed. Everything that has been building in this message, the recognition that opened in your chest in the first moments, the understanding of Esther's preparation and her moment of bold alignment, the clarity about the opposition that targets significant lives, all of it has been moving toward a single point of convergence. And that point is not somewhere in the distant future. It is not waiting for a better season or a more convenient moment, or a version of your life that has fewer complications and more obvious signs of readiness. The point of convergence is here. It is now. It is in the breath you are taking as these words land, and in the quiet knowing that has been humming beneath every sentence of this message since it began. There is a moment in every chosen life where the accumulation of preparation meets the threshold of activation, where everything that has been deposited through the hard seasons and the refining process and the long stretches of faithfulness in small and invisible places reaches a critical mass that cannot remain contained in the current structure of that life, where the pressure that has been building, not the pressure of collapse but the pressure of expansion, finally reaches the point where the walls of the old reality simply cannot hold what has been growing inside them. And the breakthrough that follows is not gradual. It is not a slow and linear progression from where you were to where you are going. It is a shift, a sudden, unmistakable, atmosphere-altering shift that changes the quality of everything that comes after it. You are standing at that threshold right now, not metaphorically, not as a poetic way of encouraging you to keep going. Literally, the accumulation of what has been happening in your life, the preparation and the refining and the deepening has brought you to a place where the next movement forward is not going to look like the movements that preceded it. It is not going to feel like grinding through another hard season or pushing through another wave of resistance or surviving another period of waiting. It is going to feel like the ceiling giving way, like the walls expanding, like the life that has been pressing against the inside of your current reality, finally finding the room it needs to fully emerge and breathe and take the shape it was always designed to take. Esther stood at exactly this threshold when she rose 3 days of preparation and dressed herself in her royal robes and walked toward the inner court of the palace. Everything before that moment had been accumulation. Every experience of loss and displacement and learning and refining had been deposited into who she was by the time her feet crossed that threshold. And in the moment of crossing, something shifted that was not just circumstantial. Something shifted at the level of the atmosphere. The king looked up from his throne and saw her standing in the court, and the favor that extended toward her in that moment was not just his personal goodwill. It was the response of the entire created order to a person who had arrived at their moment of activation fully prepared and fully aligned and fully trusting in the assignment they were carrying. The shift that is coming in your life has that same quality. It is not going to be produced by your strategy alone, though you will bring your very best thinking and creativity and effort to it. It is not going to be produced by your connections alone, though the right people are already being positioned around you. in ways you cannot yet fully see. It is going to be produced by the convergence of your preparation and your alignment and the divine timing of a heaven that has been orchestrating the conditions of your breakthrough with a precision and a care that would take your breath away if you could see it clearly. And you cannot see it clearly yet, but you will. You will look back from the other side of this threshold and see every piece of it, every chapter that seemed disconnected, and every season that seemed wasted, and every door that closed before you could get through it, and you will see how it was all moving toward this, toward now, toward the threshold you are standing on. The wall you are currently facing, whatever form it is taking in your life right now, whether it is a financial wall, or a relational wall, or a wall of health, or a wall of professional limitation, or a wall of inner confusion that has resisted every effort to think your way through it, that wall is not permanent. It is not the final word on the territory of your life. It is the last significant resistance before your greatest season. And last resistances are always the most intense, not because the enemy is winning, but because he knows he is losing. The ferocity of what you are facing right now is not a sign that the breakthrough is far away. It is a sign that the breakthrough is close enough that everything opposing it is making its final and most concentrated effort to stop what cannot ultimately be stopped. Because what heaven has decreed over your life cannot be stopped. What was written about you before you were formed cannot be unwritten by any force that operates below the authority of the one who wrote it. The decree is real. The assignment is real. The preparation was real. And the breakthrough that is on the other side of this wall is real in a way that is more solid and more certain than the wall itself, which is a temporary structure made of circumstances that are already in the process of being rearranged by a force that the circumstances themselves have no power to resist. Think about the last time you experienced a genuine breakthrough in your life. Not a gradual improvement, but an actual breakthrough. A moment where something that had been closed suddenly opened. Where something that had seemed impossible suddenly became not just possible, but actual. Remember how it felt in the days immediately before that breakthrough. Remember the intensity of the resistance. Remember how final the wall felt. Remember how easy it would have been to turn back, to conclude that the door was simply not going to open, to make peace with the limitation as though it were permanent. And then remember the moment the ceiling gave way, and understand that what you are feeling right now, in this season, in this particular iteration of pressure and resistance and unexplained inner knowing, is the same feeling that preceded every genuine breakthrough you have ever walked through. Your breakthrough is not a distant hope. It is an imminent reality. It is already in motion in the invisible spaces that precede the visible. The arrangements that need to be made are being made. The people who need to be repositioned are being repositioned. The circumstances that need to align are in the process of alignment. And what is required of you in this moment is not more striving or more strategy or more effort to force what is already coming toward you. What is required of you is the posture of someone who knows the breakthrough is real and who holds that knowing with a steadiness that the opposition cannot shake. Right now, in this moment, before you move another inch forward, I want you to do something. Type the words "My time is now" in the comments below, not as wishful thinking, not as something you half believe on a good day, but as a declaration from the deepest part of who you are, as a statement that says, I have heard what has been spoken over my life today. I recognize the threshold I am standing on, and I am not turning back. My time is not later. My time is not when the circumstances improve, or the opposition quiets, or the wall in front of me finally shows a crack. My time is now. Let those 4 words be your Esther moment. Let them be the equivalent of rising from 3 days of preparation and putting on your royal robes and walking toward the door that everything in the natural world is telling you not to open. My time is now. Say it in the comments. Say it as your declaration. Say it as the sound of a chosen life stepping fully into the season it was always moving toward. Psalm chapter 37, verse 23 and 24. The Lord makes firm the steps of the one who delights in him. Though he may stumble, he will not fall, for the Lord upholds him with his hand. Firm steps, not perfect steps, not steps that never waver, or never encounter resistance, or never feel uncertain in the moment of taking them. Firm steps. Steps that are held to something greater than the person taking them, upheld by a hand that does not release its grip when the road gets hard, or the opposition intensifies, or the wall in front of you feels more solid than the promise behind you. And if you stumble, and there will be moments of stumbling, because every chosen life includes them, you will not fall. You will not be abandoned in the stumble. You will not be left in the place where the stumble happened to conclude that the stumble was the end of the story. The hand that is holding your steps right now has been holding them through every season you have already walked through every stumble and every season of confusion, and every chapter where the opposition felt larger than the promise. It held you then. It is holding you now, and it will hold you through every step that lies between where you are standing and the fullness of the life that has been written for you. Not because you have been perfect, not because your faith has been unwavering or your steps have been faultless, but because the one whose hand is doing the holding made a decision about your life before you were capable of making any decisions at all. And that decision has not changed and will not change and cannot be altered by any stumble or any opposition or any season of waiting that your life has produced or will produce. The breakthrough is real. The decree is real. The assignment is real. And you are real, fully prepared and fully aligned and fully held, exactly as you are, standing at exactly this threshold, ready for exactly what comes next. My time is now is not just a comment. It is a covenant. It is the sound of a person who has been prepared by everything they have lived through, stepping forward into the fullness of what they were always made to carry. And heaven is listening. Heaven heard it the moment. It formed in your spirit before your fingers even moved to type it. And the response that is already in motion on your behalf is greater than anything you have yet been able to ask or imagine. The declaration you just made is not the end of something. It is the beginning of everything. Those words, "My time is now," did not dissolve into the air the moment they left you. They landed somewhere real. They registered in a realm that operates above and beneath and through every visible circumstance of your life. A realm where decrees are taken seriously, and where the alignment of a human spirit with its divine assignment sets things in motion that the natural eye cannot yet see, but that the prepared heart can already feel beginning to move. And what is moving toward you right now, in response to the posture you have taken, and the declaration you have made, and the faithfulness you have demonstrated by remaining in this space long enough to receive what was being offered, is not small. It is not incremental. It is not the next modest chapter of a life that has been playing it safe. It is the fullness of what was written about you before time began. There is a quality of momentum that belongs specifically to the chosen life in its season of activation. It is different from the momentum of human ambition or strategic planning, or the kind of forward movement that results from simply working harder than the people around you. Those forms of momentum are real and they produce real results. but they have a ceiling. They are bounded by the limits of human capacity and human vision, and the natural constraints of time and resource and opportunity. The momentum that belongs to a chosen life in its season of activation has no such ceiling. It is not bounded by what is humanly possible. It operates in the space where the humanly possible and the divinely appointed intersect, and in that space, the mathematics of ordinary progress simply do not apply. Esther experienced this momentum in the days that followed her throne room moment. What began as one act of courage, one decision to step forward in alignment with her assignment, rather than retreating into the safety of her position, produced a cascade of outcomes that no human strategy could have engineered from the starting point she occupied. Haman's plan, which had seemed not just formidable but inevitable, began to unravel in ways that had nothing to do with Esther's cleverness or her political skill or her access to power in any conventional sense. It unraveled because a chosen life had stepped into its moment of activation, and the force that was backing that life was greater than every force that had been arranged against it. The cascade that followed was not luck. It was not coincidence. It was the response of a universe that is structured to support the fulfillment of divine assignments when the human instrument of those assignments shows up fully prepared and fully aligned and fully willing to move. Your cascade is beginning. The momentum that is gathering around your life right now, invisible as it may still be from where you are standing, is of that same quality. It is not the momentum of a person who has finally figured out the right strategy. It is the momentum of a person whose preparation has met their moment of activation and whose alignment with their assignment has set something in motion that is now larger than their own effort can account for. You will begin to notice it in the coming days and weeks in ways that will initially seem like coincidence, but that will accumulate into a pattern, too consistent and too precise to be explained by chance. The right conversation at the right moment. The door that opens without you having to force it. The resource that arrives from a direction you were not watching. The clarity that comes in the middle of a situation that should have produced only confusion. The connection that forms with a person who carries exactly what the next phase of your assignment requires. These are not accidents. They are the fingerprints of heaven on a life that has said yes. They are the evidence of a cascade that is already in motion, gathering force in the invisible before it becomes undeniable in the visible. And the more you remain in alignment with what you carry, the more consistently you show up in faithfulness to the preparation that has been built in you, the more the cascade will accelerate. Not because you are earning it, not because your performance is generating it, but because alignment is the condition under which the force that backs a chosen life is fully released to move on that life's behalf without restriction. There is something important that Esther's story teaches about this season of momentum, and it is a lesson that is easy to miss because it runs counter to the way most people think about breakthrough and success and the life that follows a significant victory. After her throne room moment, after the king extended the scepter and the favor began to flow, Esther did not coast. She did not assume that the initial breakthrough guaranteed every subsequent outcome without continued engagement and continued faithfulness and continued willingness to use her voice and her position for the purpose they had been given to her. She kept showing up. She kept speaking. She kept standing in the place she had been given access to and using that access for something greater than herself. And the outcomes that followed were proportional not just to the initial act of courage, but to the sustained faithfulness that came after it. This is the pattern of the chosen life in its season of fullness. The breakthrough is not the conclusion. It is the opening. It is the moment when the door that has been closed swings open, and the territory on the other side becomes accessible. But the territory still has to be walked. It still has to be inhabited. The life on the other side of the threshold still has to be lived, faithfully and fully, and with the same quality of alignment and depth and presence that carried you to the threshold in the first place. Because the assignment does not end with the breakthrough. The assignment deepens with it. The responsibility grows. The impact expands. And the capacity that was built through the years of preparation is the very capacity that makes it possible to carry the weight of the life that the breakthrough opens up. You have been built for this, not just for the moment of activation, as significant as that moment is, but for the sustained and faithful and deepening life that follows it, for the long walk through the territory that has been opened to you, for the relationships that will form and the work that will emerge, and the lives that will be changed, because you were present in the right place at the right time, carrying the right thing, for the rooms you will walk into and the atmospheres you will shift, and the conversations you will have that alter the direction of other people's lives in ways that neither you nor they will fully understand until much later. For all of it, the preparation was not just for the threshold moment. It was for everything the threshold moment leads into. And here is what I want you to hold on to as you move from this message into the daily reality of the life that is waiting for you. The shift that is happening is not dependent on everything being perfect. It is not dependent on all your questions being answered, or all your doubts being resolved, or all your circumstances being arranged in a way that makes the next step feel obvious and safe and guaranteed. Esther did not have all of that when she walked through the door. She had her preparation. She had her alignment. She had the deep and settled knowing that she had been placed at this intersection on purpose. And she had the willingness to move from that, knowing even when everything visible in her situation was telling her that the move was too risky, and the outcome was too uncertain, and the opposition was too strong. That is the same posture that is available to you right now. Not certainty about every detail, not a map of every step between here and the fullness of your assignment, but the deep and settled knowing that the preparation was real, that the assignment is real, that the one who placed the call on your life has not changed his mind and has not lost sight of you and has not been surprised by any chapter of your story, and that the momentum that is gathering around your life right now is the response of heaven to a chosen person who has said yes with everything they have and who is ready, genuinely ready, to walk in the fullness of what has always been written for them. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 18. The path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter till the full light of day. Ever brighter. Not brighter, then dimmer, then brighter, in an unpredictable cycle that keeps you perpetually uncertain about whether the light is going to hold. Ever brighter, a consistent and directional increase in clarity and vision and the quality of light available to you as you walk the path that has been set before you. The morning sun does not apologize for its gradual arrival. It does not rush to prove itself or anxiety about whether the full light of day is really coming. Simply rises, faithfully and consistently, and with a certainty that comes from being aligned with the very design of the universe. And as it rises, the darkness recedes, and the landscape becomes clearer, and the path that was invisible in the night becomes unmistakable in the growing light. That is the trajectory of the life you are walking into. Ever brighter, ever clearer, ever more aligned with the fullness of what was written about you before you were born. The darkness that has pressed against your journey is already beginning to recede in response to the rising of what is in you. The path that felt invisible in the hardest seasons is becoming clearer with every step of faithful forward movement. And the full light of day, the complete and unobstructed expression of the life that heaven designed for you, is not a fantasy reserved for someone more prepared or more worthy or more certain than you are. It is the natural destination of the path you are on, the inevitable arrival of a morning that began the moment heaven decided that you were going to be exactly who you are. Keep walking, keep rising. The full light of day is already on its way. You have traveled a long way in this message, not just in time, not just in the minutes that have passed since the first words landed in your spirit, but in the territory of your own understanding of who you are and what you carry, and what has been at work in your life through every season that felt like anything but preparation. You came into this message carrying a pressure you could not fully name. You came in carrying a restlessness that no distraction had been able to silence. You came in with the quiet and persistent sense that something in your life was supposed to be different, that the story you were living was not the complete version of the story that had been written for you. And everything that has been spoken since those first moments has been moving you toward a single destination. Not a destination of information, not a destination of inspiration that fades by tomorrow morning, but a destination of deep and settled and unshakable, knowing that changes the way you inhabit your own life from this day forward. You are a chosen one, not in the sense of being elevated above others or separated from the common humanity you share with every person around you, but in the sense that heaven looked at the full landscape of human history, at every generation and every moment, and every intersection where a specific kind of life would be required to carry a specific kind of assignment, and placed you here, in this body, in this generation, with this particular history of preparation and refining and deepening, not by accident, not carelessly, but with the full intention of a creator who knows exactly what this moment in history requires and who determined, before you drew your first breath, that you were the one to carry it. Esther did not spend the rest of her life defined by what she had lost in her early years. She did not carry her orphan identity into the palace and allow it to set the ceiling on what she believed was possible for her. She carried her preparation. She carried the depth that her particular journey had produced. She carried the presence that only the kind of refining she had been through could have built inside her. And she stood in the place that heaven had designated for her, and she let what? She carried change everything around her. That is the invitation of your life. Not to forget what you have been through. Not to pretend the hard chapters did not happen or did not cost you something real, but to carry what those chapters produced in you into every room you walk into from this point forward, and to let the depth of it do what depth always does when it is released into a world that is hungry for something real. The momentum that gathered in Section 9, the cascade of divine alignment that has been set in motion by the declaration you made and the posture you have taken, does not stop when this message ends. It continues. It will follow you into tomorrow morning, and into the conversation you have not yet had, and into the decision that is waiting for your answer, and into the room that needs the specific quality of presence that only your particular preparation has equipped you to bring. The shift that began when you first felt that recognition is not a moment. It is a movement, and it will keep moving. As long as you keep walking in alignment with what you carry, and faithfulness to the assignment that has been placed on your life. There is one more thing I want to offer you before this message closes. Not information, not a strategy, something older and quieter and more fundamental than either of those things. I want to pray with you, not over you from a distance, as though the prayer belongs to someone else and you are simply a recipient of its benefits, but with you, because the one this prayer is addressed to is not far away and not inaccessible, and not behind a protocol that requires a more qualified human being to broker the connection. He is as close as the breath in your lungs, and the knowing in your chest, and the quiet that opens in you when the noise of the ordinary world goes still enough for you to feel what is actually present. So if you are willing, wherever you are right now, whether you are in a car or a room or a quiet corner of a place that has been anything but quiet lately, let this be your moment. Let the words that follow be yours as much as they are mine. Father, you see this person. You have always seen them. Through every season they have walked through, and every chapter they have survived, and every moment of darkness when they were not sure the light was coming back. You saw them then. You see them now. And what you see when you look at them is not the accumulation of their failures or the evidence of their hardest seasons. You see what you always see when you look at the ones you have chosen. You see the assignment. You see the preparation. You see the depth that the journey has produced, and the presence that the refining has built, and the frequency that this particular life carries, in a way that no other life in all of history carries, in quite the same way. So I ask today that you release over this life everything that has been prepared for it. Every door that needs to open, let it open. Every wall that needs to come down, let it come down. Every relationship that needs to form, let it form. Every resource that needs to arrive, let it arrive. Every layer of confusion or self-doubt or the accumulated weight of seasons that were harder than they should have had to be, let it lift. Let it lift today. Let this person walk out of this moment and into the rest of their life with a clarity and a freedom and a settled knowing in their spirit that cannot be shaken by any wave of opposition or any season of difficulty that still lies ahead of them. Let them know, in a way that goes deeper than thought and deeper than feeling, and deeper than anything the circumstances of their life can touch, that they are seen and known and held and chosen, and that the assignment on their life is real, and the preparation was real, and the breakthrough that is coming is more certain than anything they can see with their natural eyes. And let them carry from this day forward the same quality of courage that Esther carried into that throne room. Not the courage of someone who has no fear, but the courage of someone whose knowing is deeper than their fear. The courage of someone who understands that they were placed at this intersection on purpose, and that the one who placed them here has already written what happens when they say yes with everything they have. Let that courage be theirs from this moment, in every room, every decision, in every step between here and the fullness of what you wrote about them before they were formed. Amen. That prayer is not the end of the conversation. It is the beginning of a new chapter in the ongoing dialogue between your life and the heaven that authored it. And that dialogue will continue to unfold in the days ahead, in the quiet moments and the loud ones, in the breakthroughs and the continued areas of waiting, in the rooms where you show up fully and the ones where you have to dig deep to show up at all. Keep the dialogue open. Keep returning to the frequency of what you carry. Keep choosing alignment over comfort and depth over convenience and faithfulness over the easier path of settling for a life that asks less of you than the one you were made for. If this message has touched something real in you today, if any part of what has been spoken has landed in that deep place where truth settles without argument, then I want to invite you one more time to like this video and share it with someone who is standing where you were standing when these words began. Someone who is carrying the pressure and the restlessness and the quiet knowing that something is supposed to be different. They need to hear this. They need to know that what they are feeling is not a malfunction. It is a calling, and the most powerful thing you can do for them today is simply make this message available and trust that the same hand that directed your attention here will direct theirs. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already, because the conversation that has begun here is going to continue. There is more to explore and more to receive and more territory to walk through together. And for those of you who feel the pull to give toward the ongoing work of making these messages available to more people, the link to do that is in the description and in the pinned comment below. Whatever you feel moved to contribute, it goes directly toward ensuring that the next person who is lying on the floor of their kitchen at 3 in the morning or sitting in their car in a parking lot trying to hold it together has access to words that can meet them exactly where they are. You are not the same person who pressed play at the beginning of this message. Something has shifted. Something has been confirmed and deepened and set in motion that was not fully in motion before. And the life that is waiting on the other side of your continued yes is more aligned with everything your spirit has always known it was made for than anything you have yet had the courage to fully believe was really available to you. It is available. It has always been available, and it is yours. Walk toward it. Keep walking. The full light of day is rising, and you were always made to shine in it.